Nation Sports Show. Tonight, on the Nation Sports Show, we bring to you our final full analysis for the 2024-25 NFL season. Tonight, we recap Super Bowl 59 between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. Tonight, we also bring to you the latest breaking news in the NFL. On Sunday, before the Super Bowl began, it was reported after flying out to New Jersey, Aaron Rodgers was told by the New York Jets organization that they will be moving on from Rodgers as their starting quarterback for the upcoming season. Tonight, we also bring to you our latest recaps in the NBA and more. It's showtime.
Good up to the court, talking all that is sport, breaking down the latest news, scores, and more. Welcome to our Nation Sports Show. It's a Tuesday. It's 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. You know what that means. We are live for another edition of our Nation Sports Show right here on YouTube. I am your host for this evening, Stephen Wyand. What is going on, everybody? We are fired up. We are here to rock and roll, put the pedal to the metal all night long, baby, as we recap Super Bowl 59 for the Big Easy in New Orleans, Louisiana. And we will also be bringing to you our thoughts on some of the latest action in the NBA, including last night. Fans in the Dallas Mavericks were ejected from the Mavericks and Kings game after they were protesting and displaying their, displeasure of them trading away Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers. And speaking of Luka and the Lakers, Luka also made his debut playing with the Lakers last night. And all of that. And we will also be talking about some news in the NFL. And yes, even though the NFL season is over, that doesn't mean the news stops, ladies and gentlemen, because there is some news coming out, including Rodgers being told by the Jets that they are going to be moving on from him. And before we get to all of that and then some, we got to plug the social media platforms up first on Twitter or X at @ON_sports show, Facebook.com/Nation Sports Show, and where we are live right now on the World Wide Web in front of them, live and in living color on YouTube.com/Nation Sports Show. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff to your family and to your friends that love the world of sports just like we do. And unfortunately, Ezra cannot be here tonight. He is out with his family at dinner, having some quality family time with his family, which is awesome. And joining me tonight, he is one of my good brothers. He is my brother from another mother. He is a very enthusiastic Washington Commanders fan because, as we all know, his Commanders did something special. Unlike the Cowboys this past season, they actually went to the championship game against the Eagles. Torturing the Cowboys brings me great pleasure all time when I make references to that because misery loves the Dallas Cowboys. And quite frankly, I think the Mavericks too. JT, Joey Thornton, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope everybody's having an amazing Tuesday. Ready to recap some Super Bowl talk, ready to dive into some other things that we can get into. And I do want to start off, seeing as how you mentioned the Dallas Cowboys, I think it's very fitting that I begin with this statement. Dak Prescott did an interview earlier today, and his words, obviously, not mine and more than likely not millions of other people's, but he said his words that the Dallas Cowboys are very, very close to winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, very, very close to winning a Super Bowl in your dreams, sweet cowboy.
For real.
Seriously.
Especially since you have a head coach that didn't call one offensive play last year.
Yeah, not a good decision by Mr. Jones. Just terrible. Just terrible. So before we get to the Super Bowl festivities, since I did bring it up, I do want to talk about last night in the NBA, how there were Maverick fans at the American Airlines Center that were protesting. And to be honest with you, I cannot fault them for this, because what are you thinking? Trading away Luka Doncic, and we talked about this last week on the show, but now after a week of one of the most shocking trades in the NBA in quite some time, Mavericks fans last night showed up with signs and they were protesting outside of the arena, talking about firing their general manager and their owner. I mean, it's just, how is that bad? I'm sorry. How is that bad? Holding up a sign saying fire Nico. I'm sorry. If you want your if you want the owner gone for making the decision that he did, fans have a right to be upset, because you just gave away your best player for a player that can't even stay healthy on the floor. Now, I'm not discrediting what Anthony Davis has done in the NBA. He's a multi-time All-Star. He's an NBA champion. He's one of the best defensive players in the NBA and one of the best all-around basketball players. But here's the thing. You notice, Joey, the reason why we have questioned this trade is because you're trading away a 25-year-old star. Now, yes, we do know that Luka has his issues at staying healthy on the, or not just staying healthy, but staying fit on the floor. We know this, that he has these issues. So when I heard this morning about this last night, what were your thoughts? Because, like, I don't think Mavericks fans did anything wrong. They were just expressing their, what are we supposed to have as Americans? Freedom of speech. And Mavericks fans were displaying their, not happiness about Doncic being traded from the Mavericks to the Lakers. So upon last night reading that from Ezra here in our chat this morning, saying that Mavericks fans were ejected from the game, what were your thoughts on that, Joey? Because I thought that was not the right move.
No, it really wasn't. And I will let you know that I was about to bring up the whole freedom of speech thing too. As a matter of fact, it all takes me back to the First Amendment that was passed hundreds of years ago, where we have not only just freedom of speech, but religion, assembly, praise, and petition. And technically, yes, it was free speech, but you can also throw in a little mixture of free petition, because even though nothing was being passed around being signed, they were still petitioning for the firing of the Mavericks general manager. And honestly, Dallas fans, or at least these Dallas fans, the Mavericks fans, are not in the wrong here. Because I get it. You have your troubles with Luka Doncic staying fit. Sure. You have your problems with him struggling like he did in the NBA Finals, and, of course, not being able to play due to an injury that he suffered on the Christmas Day game. And, I mean, I know Luka Doncic is still one of the all-around great players of the NBA, but every once in a while, you got to have a struggle year. And I honestly believe this is Luka's struggle year. Hopefully, he'll work his way out of it. But I still think this is a lose-lose situation for not only the Mavericks, but for the Lakers too. But diving back into the Mavericks, I mean, you trade your all-pro superstar who was reminding Dallas fans constantly of the next Dirk Nowitzki, for a guy who can't even stay healthy to save his life. And, might I mention, due to that non-contact groin injury that I mentioned in the game the other night, I can't remember who it was they were playing, but Anthony Davis is going to be out for at least the next month because of that non-contact groin injury. So that basically means that this is a waste of a trade, because you trade someone who is a better playmaker. You trade someone who is not really a two-way player, because he does have a lot of struggles on defense, but Luka Doncic on offense can fire pretty much at will, and he can score from just about anywhere on the court. But you trade him for a guy, like I said, who cannot stay healthy to save his life, who's literally, in my opinion, made out of plastic, because it's almost like you touch him and he crashes. That's how weak Anthony Davis is literally getting right now. And if I'm the Lakers and if I'm LeBron, then obviously Father Time is always going to win. Is always going to be on top. And LeBron and obviously Anthony Davis, as well as Luka Doncic, are not getting any younger.
No,
So,
I mean, LeBron's been at this for what, 22 years? I mean, it's insane
yeah,
how long
this is
LeBron is.
literally, I think this is literally his 21st or 22nd year, because he got drafted first overall by the Cavs back in 2003.
It's just the fact that LeBron has played 22 seasons in the NBA, that's amazing into itself. But at the same time, LeBron doesn't have the same drive to the basket like he did when he was younger, because obviously he's an older player. And basketball is such a physical game because, constantly run up and down the floor and, moving around, stuff like that, defense, offense, you name it. Some players just aren't cut out to be multiplayers. And Luka's one of those players, and I know Dallas fans, did not want him gone. Dallas fans, were hoping that he was going to be their franchise player for years and years to come, just like Dirk Nowitzki was, for 20 seasons with the Mavericks and led that Mavericks team to a championship back in 2011 against the Miami Heat. And Luka took this Mavericks team to their first final since 2011 with Kyrie Irving, and they had a nice core tandem of young players, but they just met a Celtics team that was way better in these finals last year. And Luka was exposed on the defensive side of the basketball. I mean, Tatum and Holiday and Jaylen Brown and Derek White and Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford. I mean, you name it. Every Celtic on that team bottled him up and made him very, very uncomfortable on the floor. And when you look at this trade from all angles, nobody wins, because Dallas's so-called number one player now, it's not even going to be playing, like you said, Joey, for several weeks. And Luka did play last night, but I don't care if he's playing with LeBron. I don't care that he's playing with one of the greatest players in basketball. He doesn't have, to me, he doesn't have that Mamba mentality to work hard, train hard, because Luka needs to work on every facet of his game instead of just focusing on offense. Because now, as far as the Mavericks are concerned, I could see why they would make an offer to want him out, because he's not taking care of himself. He's not, working on himself and improving other sides of his game. I get that. But at the same time, Jason Kidd's your coach. And Jason Kidd was an all-around player, not just on offense, but he was also mainly known for his defensive prowess. And the fact that he was traded is still a shocking, thing that happened last week. And Mark Cuban was even surprised. And when you sell the team to an owner who's going to do something like that, this type of stuff happens. These types of bad moves happen. And if I'm Mavericks fans last night, I don't blame you. You're still fuming. You're still upset. You're still pissed off that Luka is not going to be coming through that door again and playing with this team for the time being. Now, we have seen players come back to their organizations. We have seen that, like Kevin Garnett left the Timberwolves, went to the Celtics, won a championship, went to the Nets, went back to the Timberwolves, so on and so forth. You know, we've seen LeBron go from Cleveland to Miami, back to Cleveland. Then he leaves Cleveland again and goes to Los Angeles. I mean, we've seen players, we've seen it. I mean, just off the top of my head, especially just talking about basketball. I mean, we've seen that happen over the years. And those were just some players that came to my mind. But it's amazing how after 1 week, the Lakers, in a way, kind of, if you think about it from a record standpoint, are in the driver's seat because they're 32-19. And they're in the 3rd seed right now in the Western Conference. And the Mavericks, if they're going to make the playoffs, it's going to be one of the last couple of spots that if they got to fight for a spot in the tournament, in the play-in tournament, when April rolls around. So, yeah, I don't understand. Like, they ejected fans holding up signs that said "Fire Nico." Then they eject the guy who mouthed "Fire Nico." Like, come on. Like, I'm sorry. I mean, this is not a good move by the Mavericks, because it's like, and Joe, you'll get this. If you tell a bad kid to not do something, what they gonna do? They're still gonna do it.
Yeah, but I believe it's something along the lines of they're still gonna do it.
Exactly. They're still gonna act out. They're still gonna express themselves. So, and not to mention, but the Mavericks also, if that wasn't bad enough, fans getting ejected, they also lost the game in overtime against Sacramento. And it was a close game. And that's the thing that's also crazy, is you bring in a Kyrie Irving to team up with Luka. And people were thinking, oh, if they can keep these two together, they can go places. Well, now this Mavericks team is not even looking like the same Mavericks team that even made the finals last year. I mean, Derek Lively's out with injuries, and just so many key pieces to that team were traded away, either in the offseason or were dealt during the trade deadline. And the Mavericks now, I hate to say it, but to me, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that the Mavericks are fixing to enter the bottom of the basement once again for a long time. Because until they can get a star player to come through that door again, they're done. They are done.
I can agree to that.
And as far as last night for Luka is concerned, to switch over to him, yeah, he made his debut last night with the Lakers. I mean, it's gonna take Luka a little bit to get back into game shape, you know, because of being out, like you said, since Christmas with injuries. His first game back since Christmas Day. And do I think will he gel? Yeah, in a way, yeah, because he's an offensive player. He's gonna get it. He's gonna get his buckets. He's gonna do his thing. Him and LeBron, I think, can form a pretty good duo, but not for the long term, because I think LeBron is pretty soon he's gonna retire. Now, here's a question for you, Joey. Now, as far as Luka is concerned, if LeBron decides to retire in the near future and Luka is still a Laker, will players want to come to LA and play with Luka?
You know, that is actually a really good question, because, I mean, you mentioned something about Mamba mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And quite honestly, people may say that LeBron has that Mamba mentality, And people may say that Luka has that Mamba mentality. But me, honestly, I don't think either one of them have it.
Right.
Because Kobe he was a legend. I mean, it didn't matter who he stepped on the court against. It didn't matter who he stepped on the court with as far as teammates. Kobe always made an impact. Night in, night out, season in, season out. He always made an impact. And there was just something about Kobe that sparked or that said team leader. Just like the same thing with Michael Jordan when he was leading those Chicago Bulls teams to the NBA championships in the 90s with the 2 3-peats. I mean, there was just something about him that said team leader, that said pure, confident athlete. And I know LeBron can probably, or self-admittedly, call himself those things. But to me, he and Luka just don't have it. So if LeBron, so going back to your question, if LeBron does decide to retire in, let's just say, a year or two, and Luka is still a Laker, are people going to want to come play for the Lakers and Luka? Well, I'm not saying yes, and I'm not saying no. But what I am going to say is that it all depends on what type of an impact Luka can make if he's literally by himself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if Luka is on the bench, if Luka is on the court and LeBron is on the bench, Dalton Connect is on the bench, who is a young sharpshooter, obviously in his rookie season. Cam Reddish, he's an up-and-coming star as well for the Lakers. But outside of Luka and LeBron, the Lakers don't really have anybody who can embrace that superstar mentality yet. And notice I said yet. It doesn't mean that they never will. They just don't have it right now. But Luka, if he really wants to bring in, and you know what? I'm just going to throw a random name out there. Let's just say Jamal Murray. If he were to ever leave the Nuggets and join the Lakers out in LA, if Luka really wants to bring free agents like that in, once LeBron finally decides to hang up the cleats or the sneakers, then it's really going to determine what type of an impact he makes when he is out there on the floor leading the team by himself. Because if Luka is not going to be able to handle it, then nobody's going to want to come to LA and be a Laker. It doesn't matter if you have famous teammates in the past like Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Derek Fisher. It's not going to matter because most of these players look at the here and they look at the now. It's always nice to live in the past. Trust me, it's nice to live in the past. But you also need to look towards the future. You also need to look at the present, the here and the now, like I just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And quite honestly, the here and the now does not look good for the Lakers if LeBron or whenever LeBron decides to retire. Because Luka can't do it right now. Luka's really going to have to elevate his game if he really wants to bring free agents to LA.
Real quick here in the chat, give a shout out to both William and Randy Gyron. What's up, gents?
Hey, what's going on, William and Randy? How you fellas doing tonight?
And Randy brings up a great point here in the chat that when LeBron retires, the Lakers will just bring another star player to replace him. That is unfortunately true. And also, William says here in the chat that Kyrie is a cancer to a locker room.
Mm-hmm.
William also says here in the chat, and we'll get to this, the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl because Jake from State Farm canceled their insurance.
I did see a meme. Real quick, I did see a meme that somebody put on Facebook of one of the pictures of Patrick Mahomes getting sacked, and the caption up above it said that if Mahomes would have had Allstate insurance, he wouldn't have had. Let's see, I'm trying to think of what it was. He would, yeah. If Patrick Mahomes would have had Allstate insurance, he would have undergone the type of mayhem.
He would have been. He would have been in good hands. Just saying.
Yeah, he would have been in good hands.
Yes, but yeah. I mean, as far as the Lakers and Mavericks are concerned, these two teams have been forever changed. For the course of history has changed, and I do not foresee the Mavericks or the Lakers getting back to any resemblance of going to a championship series again for the time being, because the Lakers have a lot of issues. A lot. I don't care if their record says they're third in the West. They're third in the West. That doesn't mean they're necessarily the best or one of the best.
No, but I will say one thing about one of the teams in the West. Even though they are currently in 11th place in the West right now, the Golden State Warriors are looking up because they landed quite an interesting superstar last week in the name of Jimmy Buckets Butler from the Miami Heat.
There's another one and another one. Another trade in the NBA before the trade deadline came and gone last week. Jimmy Gets Buckets Butler is gone from Miami to Golden State. Now that is interesting in a way, because getting a quality jump shooter like Butler and bringing him to go with Stephen Curry, that could be trouble. That could be trouble for the league. Because I know Kevin, our very own Kevin, was very excited when Jimmy Butler was having a great game the other night. Randy also says here in the chat, damn you, Jake, no Geico. Yep. Jimmy Butler goes to the Warriors. Now, what are your thoughts on this maneuver? Because I know all week long and for the last several weeks, Butler's been bitching and complaining up a storm to Miami. I want out, blah, 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 all of that. You know, and I get it, but at the same time, like I said, like he got what he wanted. And I mean, I get why he wanted out, but at the same time, all the great players back in the day did just upright and lead their team, just saying. But he got what he wanted, and he's out. But again, like with Butler going to the Golden State Warriors, I don't foresee Golden State going on this magic run unless they get consecutive wins after consecutive wins, you know, for weeks and weeks and weeks. I mean, Golden State's record's not that great either. And now Golden State was the complete opposite of the Mavericks. They started out hot, and they went on this losing streak. At one point they were 12-9. And as I am looking at their records, let's see, they are 27-26. That ain't good enough. They did beat the Bucks 127-111, or excuse me, 125-111. And that game was yesterday. So, yeah, Golden State's record's not any better. They're 10th in the Western Conference. If they want to make a surge into playoffs, talking about playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just, if Golden State wants to make a miraculous run, they're going to have to start going on a run, winning consecutive games like 10, 12, 13. A span of those games to have a shot to get into the playoffs.
I mean, that is a very valid statement, but Golden State, they actually, now with this acquisition of Jimmy Butler, they actually have more of a positive outlook than the Mavericks and, whether people want to believe it or not, the Lakers. Because once again, you have a big three at Golden State with Steph, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green. Now, I get it. Landing Jimmy Butler did cost a pretty, I would say, a hefty sum, because they had to give up a player who, believe it or not, was one of the main factors in giving the Warriors their 2022 NBA championship, and Andrew Wiggins.
A very good player, I may add in Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, a very good player in Andrew Wiggins.
And William says here in the chat real quick as well, he also says that Steve Kerr is not going to put up with Butler's antics, and I completely agree.
Oh, I completely agree with that. I mean, Steve Kerr was a teammate of Michael Jordan's. And Steve Kerr does not put up with any bull crap. I mean, he didn't put up with the bull crap that went on between Draymond Green and Jordan Poole whenever Poole was still a member of the Warriors, and they got into that scuffle. He didn't put up with that. He said Jordan Poole on his way. Hang on a second. Got to take a phone call. Steven?
All righty. Thank you very much for that. And very cool with the ringtone with the Lion King. But now I agree with you, William, that I don't think that Steve Kerr is going to put up with these antics. He's not going to put up with this. I mean, to have a talented player like Jimmy Butler on your roster, I mean, that's great and all, but he got what he wanted. He got dealt, to Golden State, and he thinks that, he could just walk in there and we can go on a magic run and all this different stuff. Like, he thinks that he can just take his talents to wherever he wants to go and play with with one of the greatest, three-point shooters in NBA history. But that doesn't mean it's going to bring you success all the time. And it's the way that the old NBA used to be, when players would actually stay put with their teams. Obviously, that's been gone for years. And the younger NBA players by today's standards, they're entitled. They think that they can throw their weight around and they can do whatever they want, blah, 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 all of that horse crap. But I just wish that these teams would quit giving in to these spoiled, rich brats. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Interesting point there, Randy. Randy says here in the chat that he said I would have sent Jimmy Butler to the Wizards. Interesting point there, William. A team with Kyrie, Kevin Durant, and Jimmy Butler in Serbia. Oh my God. I don't know about that, dude. I don't know about that. That'd be too much shenanigans going on. Too much shenanigans going on. Yeah. Just oof. I just today's NBA just drives me nuts sometimes with these athletes, titled rich brats. Just saying. Anyways, folks, we are live here tonight for another edition of our Nation Sports Show. Thank you to Randy and William Gyron being here in the chat today. Glad to have these fine gentlemen here in the chat today and recapping some news in the NBA, and we will be getting to the Super Bowl here in a little bit. But I do want to bring up when it regards to the NFL, I find it so hilarious that Karen Rodgers decides to show up to New Jersey. The Jets flew him out only to tell him, psych, we ain't bringing you back next year. Oh, it's a cruel, cruel world, isn't it? It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Yeah. Woo. That's a good point there, William. Yes, they are a bunch of prima donnas. I agree, William. Why can't today's NBA players just play basketball? I agree. But yeah, as far as Aaron Rodgers is concerned, it couldn't have happened to a better guy. After having one of the worst seasons in NFL history when it comes to a star caliber player being dealt to the Jets a couple of years ago, did not play 2 years ago because of the Achilles injury, and last season now, he sucked. Predominantly, he sucked. Speaking of sucking, his offensive line sucked. That's not a prediction. That, my friends, is a spoiler, as Paul Heyman would say. Acknowledge that. When it comes to Aaron Rodgers' tandem in the Jets, it's over. It's done. It's over, Aaron. It's over. Now, me being a football fan, and I love football, obviously, and other sports as well. But I would love, in the meme world, when it comes to the NFL, I would love to complete the cycle of cycles. Aaron Rodgers goes to the Vikings to be their next quarterback. Because after all, Sam Darnold in the playoffs against the Rams and the last game against the Lions, wrapping up the 2024-25 regular season, he completely shit the bed in both of those games. He just punched his ticket out of Minnesota. And I think Aaron Rodgers will be the next quarterback. Because why not? Oh, Joey's back.
Yep, I'm back.
And just bring it, as me and Joey were just talking about Aaron Rodgers being told by the Jets organization that they're gonna be moving on from him as their quarterback. What are your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers being told after being flown out to Jersey, hey, you're not coming back as our quarterback? What are your thoughts on that?
That, if I was Aaron Rodgers, that honestly feels like a punch in the gut or a knife to the back. Mm-hmm. Because Aaron Rodgers, whenever the Jets pulled off this trade for Aaron Rodgers back in 2023, Jets fans went absolutely ballistic, saying, oh yeah, we got Aaron Rodgers coming to New York. He's gonna got us to a Super Bowl. He's definitely gonna got us to a Super Bowl as long as he's here, because we got the best quarterback in all the land. Mm-hmm. Yeah, look where that. Yeah, but I said, look where that has gotten y'all. Literally, his first season with the Jets was over in 4 plays. 4 plays. And then this past year, granted, he did play the full season, but he wasn't the same Aaron Rodgers.
He looked like a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. I mean, He just looked like a shadow of his former self.
Because if you really think about
this was not the same Aaron Rodgers. I mean, granted, it is a step above Zach Wilson, who's probably still hunting now. He's probably out still hunting cougars right now. And not the animals. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers, and here's the interesting part. Yes, Aaron Rodgers did not have his best statistical season. He may have probably had his worst season in his career as far as stats is concerned. But for more than half the year, he had his buddy from the Green Bay Packers, Devontae Adams, as well as a young superstar receiver in Garrett Wilson to throw to. But it's kind of hard to throw the ball to those players if Aaron Rodgers is sitting on his butt on the field.
Kind of hard to make any progressive moves down the field when your offensive line can't block.
Exactly. And that has been a problem for the Jets for several years. They do not have an offensive line. It doesn't matter who they put out there as far as who they have right now on that roster.
You could have Tom Brady as your quarterback and you still couldn't move the ball because of the offensive line.
You could have Joe Montana as your starting quarterback and he still wouldn't go anywhere because of that O-line.
You're only as good.
You could even put a dual threat quarterback out there like Michael Vick, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels. You could put a dual threat out there and they still wouldn't be able to do anything.
Exactly. And not just that, but speaking of offensive lines, when you look at games that great quarterbacks have lost, they have been demolished by the defensive front because of the offensive line not protecting. And as we all know, a lot of people do not look at the ins and outs of football. They don't pay attention to the X's and to the O's because everybody looks at strictly the quarterback, the receiver, the tight end, the running back. They don't pay attention to the offensive line, the big guys that keep the quarterback upright to stand there in the pocket and look at what's around him as far as the defensive coverage, as far as the receivers running their routes. And that seems to be a common thread because we're about to get into the Super Bowl here in a little bit. And that's the thing about Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers, no matter if he had, even if his offensive line would have been great, probably the Jets could have won a lot more games. But the fact that his offensive line could not protect him predominantly all year long, he was destroyed. He was absolutely destroyed. And no matter where he goes, he needs to think about where he's going to go. Because if I'm Rodgers, no matter who I play for next year, it better be with an offensive line that actually can block. Think about it. Because there's teams out there that have good offensive lines that could use a quarterback.
Well, believe it or not, I'm going to go and put two and two together because I've been hearing some rumors about another team that is that's not far from the New York Jets, who is looking at a possible change in quarterback, and it is rumored that they could be bringing in Aaron Rodgers. And the team that I'm talking about is the team that, even though it hasn't been fully announced yet, they're saying that Russell Wilson will not be back in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform.
Oh, that's a great segue.
They're saying that Russell Wilson cannot be back as a Pittsburgh Steeler next year. And if they also decide to let Justin Fields walk, then there's heavy rumors going around that Mike Tomlin could be interested in bringing in Aaron Rodgers to be the quarterback.
Yeah, because think about this as well, and that's a great segue by you, Joey, because the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Russell Wilson's relationship is just like that. Done. Presumably. It's over. And Russell Wilson had a very interesting year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Starting out on the bench for Justin Fields, and Justin Fields led this team to a 4-2 record. And Mike Tomlin inserts a quarterback change and moves Russell Wilson to be the starting quarterback. Now, initially, myself included, I was going, what the hell are you doing? Moving Fields from the starting role to the bench for the first 6-7 weeks. That move was great. But then in the last 5 games, it was terrible. Because Russell Wilson turned into the factory of sadness Denver Broncos version of himself. Because Russell Wilson, throughout the entire 24-25 season, he looked like a tale of two quarterbacks. In the first half of his tenure with the Steelers, he looked like the old Seattle Russell Wilson. Slinging the ball, extending plays, making plays with his legs. Then in the last 5-6 games, he looked like a shell of his former self, and he looked like the hack that he was in Denver. And that's another question to ponder. Will Russell Wilson start with another team next season after an abysmal performance in the latter half of the 2024 NFL regular season into the playoffs?
Oh, you know he is. I mean, there are plenty of teams out there that could use a quarterback that don't have a top selection coming up in April's NFL draft. I mean, there are a lot of quarterback needy teams out there that don't have an early pick in April's draft. But even if you do rely on the draft, and this is a real quick statement, this is actually a weak class as far as quarterbacks. But of course, we'll get into that as the NFL draft gets closer. But
yes,
yeah,
he will. And William says here in the chat, real quick, he also says that it's a fact that older quarterbacks are not changing. It's a fact that 30 years older quarterbacks change teams aren't very productive. That is a very excellent point.
That's a very excellent point. And I mean, if Russell Wilson does not go back to the Steelers, then he's definitely going to get picked up by somebody. As far as who, though, I have no idea. But depending on who picks him up, if anybody, will determine if he's going to get a lot of playing time or if he's going to be sitting on the bench. Because let's just say, for example, and I'm throwing this out there. Trust me, I am throwing this out there. If he were to get picked up by, let's just say, the 49ers. If he were to get picked up by the 49ers, who would get the start? Who would play most of the minutes? Would it be Brock Purdy or would it be Russell Wilson? The answer is obviously Brock Purdy. Whereas if Russell Wilson were to go to a team like, let's just say, the New York Giants, if he were to go to the New York Giants, he would definitely be penciled in as a starter, regardless of who the Giants draft come April.
Good point.
So I mean, yeah, like I said, if he does not go back to the Steel City, somebody is going to pick him up.
Well, I think it's about that time. Yes, we are going to give our final analysis of the NFL season for 2024-25. As yes, the Super Bowl has come and gone. And speaking of coming and going, the ass kicking has come and gone. Because, oh my, what a beautiful, beautiful display of ass whipping on full display in New Orleans by the Philadelphia Eagles against the Kansas City Chiefs. Because, Joey, I have thought about this in my mind since that game was happening and afterwards. I even asked a couple of friends, did you get a sense that Kansas City walked into that game with this cocky attitude that they thought, oh, we can just walk into the Superdome, we can go in there, and we can win our third consecutive championship. We're going to make history. We're going to three-peat, blah, blah, blah. And then they get punched in the mouth and they didn't know what hit them and they didn't know how to respond. Did you get a sense that they were being cocky?
Oh, big time. Big time. There was definitely a sense of cockiness. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and the Chiefs players, they were like, oh, well, we beat Philadelphia in the Super Bowl before, so what makes this year going to be any different? So I believe that, and I read an article that ESPN put out, I think it was yesterday, saying that they were hearing all the talk from fans, other people, and even some of the Chiefs players on social media saying, talking about how they were going to accomplish the three-peat. And head coach Nick Sirianni himself said in an interview that talk that everybody was doing about the Chiefs three-peat is what fired up Philadelphia.
And how could it not?
And I mean, I was saying, how could it not?
They walked in there. They walked in there and they took everything from Kansas City.
They took more than just a trophy. They took their confidence. They took their determination. They took their legacy away. They took their dynasty away. They, in WWE terms, burned it down.
Yeah, it was quite shocking that this happened. Now, that's why I said last week, would I be surprised if Philadelphia won? No, because to be honest with you, okay, look at Philadelphia's record versus Kansas City's record. Heading into the Super Bowl, the Chiefs lost 2 games and the Eagles lost 3. To be honest with you, even though Kansas City on record 15-2, yeah, that's nice, in the regular season, but at some point, winning these close games in a row, and we talked about this countless times and time again on this show. Myself, you, Ezra, Kevin, Mike have talked about this on the show countless times. When you constantly win games by the skin of your teeth, you're not gonna have long-term success. Because losing or winning multiple games by 1-score games with the doinks of doinks happening, other kickers missing field goals. Speaking of doinking, your kicker, your backup kicker, doinking in a field goal to beat the Chargers. The other misassignments that the referees blew, let's be honest, including that one against Denver when the player clearly jumped off sides on the blocked field goal, because Kansas City would have lost that game. And they kept winning by the most bullshittery of bullshit ways. But eventually that was going to bite them. And it did, big time. This was not even close. This looked like a heavyweight boxer facing the most amateur of amateur fighters. This looked like a NFL professional team beating up on a flag football team. This looked like a professional wrestler beating up a fan who doesn't even know how to wrestle. This looked like a veteran beating up a wrestler that doesn't have the experience of working in the ring. This looked like an advanced musician schooling a rookie musician on whatever instrument he or she plays. Whatever terminology, whatever you want to say, this was not even close.
No, it wasn't. Because, yes, it was an 18-point win, but you got to keep in mind that 16 of those 22 points that Kansas City scored were literally in garbage time. It was 40-6 halfway through the fourth quarter.
The only reason why I did not put Mahomes out of this game is because you would honestly think that a great quarterback would make adjustments in the second half when you got that long, Super Bowl halftime, festivities going on. You got 30 plus minutes, 30, 40 plus minutes, which also as a side note, I spent my 40 plus minutes not listening to that halftime show. I actually listened to Dream Theater's 42 epic masterpiece, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. I took my precious time to listen to epic musicianships, epic musicianship, unlike a halftime show full of backing tracks. Tell me when I'm telling lies. Anyways, you would think that down 24-0, you would think being down 24-0 that, okay, you're not dead yet because there's still 2 full halves to go. There's still 30 minutes to play. And Tom Brady engineered the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history when his Patriots were down 28-3 already in the third freaking quarter. So, I'm going to be honest with you, Joey. And I'm going to ask you guys here in the chat. First, I'll pose this question. What did this game remind you of? I'll give you 2 answers for me. This reminded me of when the Niners beat the Broncos 55-10 because Denver's points that they scored were in garbage time. This also reminded me of the Seahawks versus the Broncos from Super Bowl 48 when, and I'll never forget this. I was watching that game with you, Randy, me and Randy and my cousin, the late Daniel Coble, were with some friends. We were watching this game. Everybody was asking me, who you got? Seattle or Denver? I said Seattle. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah. Their defense is going to show up. And they're going to play great. They're going to beat Denver. I read that game like a freaking book. And the reason why I did not go with my gut last week of picking Philadelphia is because I thought that the same bullshit was going to happen with the referees. And oh, by the way, the bullshit was in effect during the first fucking quarter. When that god-awful offensive pass interference was called. That wasn't even pass interference in the first place. Because thank God that game did not come down to being a close game. Because if it would have, that would have reared its ugly head. The offensive pass interference that was called after that incredible throw by Jalen Hurts to A.J. Brown. An incredible catch to the Kansas City, what was it, like 20-something yard line, 30-something yard line? Just an incredible, accurate throw. And even though that catch did not count, Jalen Hurts made it count even more later on in the game. But as far as this game is concerned, after the Chiefs got the ball back, and they got the ball, Mahomes was already inaccurate, Joey, and, from the get-go. He was missing throws, and you said it to me yesterday, Joey, that Mahomes looked very shaky. He looked very nervous. He looked very nervous in this game. Because honestly, the pressure of having to, of trying to make history, three-peating as Super Bowl champions, I think that the pressure got to Kansas City. And also the cockiness. That also didn't help matters. And it's just, it's telling to me because when you analyze this game front to back, Philadelphia must have watched a couple of game films on Kansas City to expose them. And another game this game reminded me of is that Buccaneers game against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl in Tampa Bay 4 years ago when Tampa annihilated that high-flying Chiefs offense. Now, I'm not discrediting Mahomes as a quarterback because he is a great quarterback in his era. But there's no way in hell that Tom Brady would allow this to happen. No way.
Oh, definitely not. And I'll go ahead and give you my two games that this Super Bowl annihilation reminded me of. The first one was one that you actually brought up yesterday, Steven, whenever Dallas beat the Buffalo Bills. I think it was something like 55-17.
55-17. There was a lot of turnovers in that game.
Yeah,
a lot.
55-17. And also one that I tend to cherish very, very well. And that is the fact back in 1988, Washington beat the Denver Broncos 42-10 after scoring 35 points in the second quarter.
It is just amazing how, and somebody also made a video on this game, and they also compared it to Super Bowl 29 when the Niners beat the Chargers. And if you watch that video, the guy breaks it down, and he said both of these games were identical. They were identical, completely identical on what happened in the game. It was almost like it was a carbon copy of these two games, 30 years apart. And when you look at the situation at what have you, when it comes to how this game played out, when Mahomes was missing throws and also receivers were dropping passes. I mean, Travis Kelce, you can't drop that many passes like he did. And DeAndre Hopkins dropping passes, Hollywood Brown dropping passes. I mean, and speaking of god awful, their running game was even worse. Their running game got destroyed. Now, I also don't think that not running the ball efficiently at all, starting out the game running the ball, I don't think that helped them out either. Because the play calling for Kansas City was not balanced at all. Meanwhile, the play call for Philadelphia was balanced. And the Chiefs defense, I will say this, and you said it to me yesterday as well, and we'll say it here live on record, that yes, the one good thing that Kansas City did was stop Saquon Barkley from having a Saquon Barkley type of a game. But what their defense failed to do is stop that passing attack. Because Jalen Hurts' Eagles have a really good receiving core. Jalen Hurts is no scrub. These receivers are damn sure no scrubs. Devontae Smith's a great receiver. A.J. Brown's a great receiver. And mind you, both of these guys can be number one or number two on any given Sunday. Dallas Goedert also is a very high quality, very high caliber, tight end. He's a very pass-oriented catching tight end player. And he's also a very good run blocking tight end. He's an all-around tight end player. And I said it last week on the show that Saquon Barkley was the one key piece to this team that could win a Super Bowl. And they did. This Philadelphia team had sweet revenge on their mind. And I'll tell you, the turning point for me in this game, Joey, was the pick six. The pick six on Mahomes. 17-0. At that point, the game was done.
Yeah, and believe it or not, and this is, I mean, honestly, you can't make this stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
Lightning can indeed strike whenever it wants to, because the player who picked off that pass and returned it for a touchdown was not only a rookie named Cooper DeJean, but he was also celebrating his birthday on Sunday. So how fitting he scores a defensive touchdown in the Super Bowl on his birthday.
And also Saquon Barkley celebrated a birthday in the Super Bowl.
Yes, he did. Now, as far as Saquon Barkley is concerned, The only thing that Kansas City did right in that Super Bowl was they contained Saquon Barkley. 25 carries, 57 yards, only 2.3 yards per carry. 2.3 yards per carry. And I said this the other day as I was coming home from work. I said that if I'm the other 30 NFL teams right now, I would be studying game footage of the Super Bowl, but not just of the Super Bowl. I would be studying the fact that Kansas City stuffed Saquon Barkley. So I would be picking up what Kansas City put down as far as stopping Saquon Barkley in the future. Because, yes, he only got 57 rushing yards in the Super Bowl, but he only needed 30 to break the record for most yards combined in a regular season / postseason by former Super Bowl MVP Denver Broncos running back Terrell Davis. So yeah, if I'm these other 30 NFL teams, I will be pulling as much game footage as possible on how to stop Saquon Barkley, because Saquon is the leader of that offense and Jalen Hurts is not far behind. But if you can contain either that run passing game or both, then you pretty much got a good chance to beat the Eagles come next season.
Yeah, and the thing about Philadelphia that impressed me the most is, look, I am not a Philly fan. I am not an Eagles fan. But what I am is a football fan first and foremost. There are players on this team that are very, very likable. Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert, Carter on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, just you name it. They're a likable team. They are a way better team this year than they were when they first faced this Chiefs team. And also, if you really want to get technical, Joey, Jalen Hurts outplayed Mahomes in the Super Bowl 2 years ago when he lost that game. He had more running yards. He had more passing yards. I think he had over 400 yards of offense in that game. And just the fact that quite possibly it could have been Jalen Hurts 2-0 against Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Could have been, but that's not how it plays out. But when you think about this game and also how it played out, when what also broke the Chiefs is that second consecutive interception on the second consecutive pass that Mahomes threw. 2 back-to-back passes, 2 back-to-back interceptions that led to 14 Philadelphia points. And after that, the Chiefs, it's like they quit. You had 2 full quarters. 2 full quarters to go. Because if Tom Brady could walk around to his teammates in New England after they're getting their shit kicked in against Atlanta, and you're already midway in the third quarter, essentially that game should have been over. But if you make plays and your team believes that you can get consecutive stops, you got a shot to win this game. Or more importantly, first to get back in the game. Kansas City just quit. They quit. And these Chiefs fans that are these diehard Chiefs fans, they're going to be like, ooh, what are you talking about? Come on. Think about it. Mahomes and company got exposed in this game because their receiving core was average all year long. They were not great. The Chiefs team this year was a methodical Chiefs team that pounded the ball, that ran the ball. When you take out the running game and the offensive line not being able to block, they're beatable. And they got exposed, in my opinion. Philadelphia treated Kansas City like they were Old Yeller. I mean, it was insane to think that. How do you have the whereabouts to stop Saquon Barkley? Which obviously you had to pay attention to that guy because he could rip off a 60-yard run just like that. But when you think about this, the Chiefs did not do it all. They did not pay attention to the receivers. Because even also, if we're also being, accurate with this sentiment about the Super Bowl from 2 years ago in Arizona, the Chiefs defense was getting carved up against the Eagles offense in that game as well. So 2 consecutive Super Bowls and Jalen Hurts has outplayed Mahomes. Now, William, addressing William's comment here in the chat, who are you referring to saying that he made great catches? Are you referring to some of the Eagles players that made great catches in the game?
Yeah, that's who I would say, because Devontae Smith, he took off and literally beat the Chiefs secondary and nabbed that 46-yard touchdown right there in the second half.
That right there was the clincher.
Yeah, and quite honestly, there were, like you mentioned, Stephen, with the passing game, there were several, and I mean several instances in which Philadelphia Eagles receivers were wide open. Wide open. And even though it probably didn't play much of a factor in determining the game itself, if I'm DeAndre Hopkins right now, I'm still shooting myself in the foot for him dropping that wide open pass. There were no Philadelphia Eagles defenders around him, not even within 10 yards of him, when Mahomes threw that ball to Hopkins, and he just dropped it.
Yep. And also talking about that Chiefs performance, anything that could go wrong went wrong.
Yep.
Anything went wrong. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's exactly. Okay. That was an amazing catch. That's what he was referring to, was the incredible catch by Saquon. That was an amazing catch.
Oh yeah.
That was an amazing catch.
I think he was running down the sideline and he just about lost his footing, but he was able to bring that catch in. I think it was around the 7-8 yard line on the opposite side of the field, something like that. But yeah, that was an amazing catch by Saquon Barkley. An amazing catch.
And you talked about the drop by Hopkins. You got to catch that, because if you catch that, you're more than likely going to be running into the end zone or close to it. That right there could have gotten you back in this game. But you flat out dropped the ball.
Yep.
He catches that 90% of the time. That's why they brought you to Kansas City. You dropped it. You blew it. Because let's be honest, Tyreek Hill wouldn't have dropped that pass. Tyreek Hill would have caught that pass. Amazing. Just amazing. And that right there, that was the difference maker. Was the Chiefs players it's like they gave up. They gave up in this game, because in that second half, when it got going, and not to mention too, but got to give credit to that defensive front for Philadelphia, because they sacked Mahomes 6 times. And you know what made it even more damning for Kansas City? Not one single blitz package. They just dropped back 4.
That's right.
Rush
That's
7.
right.
What a
Patrick
concept.
Mahomes got sacked 6 times and they forced 3 turnovers.
Yep.
And Jalen Hurts, whenever he was on that field, his offensive line gave him all the time
All
in
day.
the world to
All
throw.
day.
All the time in the world to throw. I don't think they even got Jalen Hurts for a sack. Maybe one. Maybe one.
The only critical error that Jalen made was that interception.
Yeah, that's the only critical error that he made was that interception on that duck pass in the first quarter.
Whack. Whack. Now, speaking of passes and duck passes or whatever you want to say, what the hell was Mahomes doing in that first half? I mean, that is not MVP type numbers. That is not the 3-time Super Bowl champion that I know. That's not the 3-time Super Bowl MVP that I know. 6 of 14 for 33 yards?
Yeah, 33 yards and 2 with 2 interceptions. And keep in mind, as I mentioned to you yesterday, Stephen, 12 of those 33 passing yards came on the Chiefs' opening drive. So that pretty much means that from, let's just say, 11 minutes to go in the first quarter to halftime, Mahomes only got 21 more passing yards. Unbelievable.
And that's also a great point by William as well. Even Kelsey dropped passes. And Travis
Kelsey dropped passes.
Travis Kelce was the drizzling shits in this game. He was so bad. So bad. He was so bad.
Oh, I hate to bring this up, but I have to because it is so funny. Somebody put a meme on Facebook saying that Taylor Swift walked up to Travis Kelce after the game and said, "We are never, ever getting back together." Because now we got bad blood.
And that right there would have been death by 1,000 cuts.
Yes, it would have.
And I don't think Travis would have been able to shake it off. But anyways, yeah.
Speaking of music, real quick, and I hate to divert away from the Super Bowl for just a little bit, but Steven, it is my understanding that you went to some interesting concerts back over the weekend. So why don't you tell us a little bit about them?
Yes, I did. On Friday, nice little segue. On Friday, I went to Charlotte, and at the neighborhood theater, Robert, John, and the Wreck played up there. It's a nice little spot. And Parker Barrow, the opening act, they were great. Led by lead singer Megan Kane. She is the wife of drummer Dylan Turner. And they're both in the band, and just great sounding band. I mean, just an incredible band with talent. You know, they got great songs. They've been around for 6 years. Just her voice was so good. Just the way she sounded, the way the entire band played, kind of gave me some Zeppelin vibes with their sound. Just really cool band. They're working on a second album. And just really cool. And Parker Barrow, they're coming near you. Check them out. They're going to be in Pennsylvania. They're coming back around to the Carolinas in the next week or so. Going to be playing in Wilmington, Wilmington. They're going to be playing in I think Winston-Salem. They're going to be playing in Raleigh, I know. Just a really good band. They played some new stuff. They played some old stuff from their first album. Just a really good band. Nice people too. Me and the singer talked for a good 10 minutes or so. I met the guitar player as well, met the bass player. Really cool people. And turns out that they actually played at Double Vision in Rockingham whenever first getting their start. I was like, oh, that's nice. So and it hit me when I was talking to Megan. I said, I think I remember reading y'all's name on the billboard on Facebook saying that they're going to be up there playing and she was like, yeah, we played up there before. I was like, that is awesome. So very cool that all the dots were connected. Um, but Robert John and the Wreck was the headlining band, and they sounded great. They sounded great. Just great Southern rock band from Southern California. Just the entire band was firing on all cylinders. Just sounded amazing. Loved their songs. They played lots of stuff in their latest album, Red Moon Rising. They played a couple of new songs from their upcoming new album. Just an all around great night. They kind of have like a Allman Brothers kind of vibe. They got kind of a Grateful Dead kind of vibe with some of their transitions and some of their songs, but they're mainly just a straight up Southern rock, blues rock band. Just great band. And then Saturday, I went to Raleigh. Oh, and real quick, I also met a musician at the show named Chuck. Really cool dude. He plays bass, plays guitar. Shout outs to him. Really cool dude. We talked for a good 10 minutes or so during the show, after the show, during the before the show. Just really fun night. Really fun night of live music. And Saturday night, like I said, I went to Raleigh at the Martin Marietta Center for the Performing Arts, formerly known as the Duke Energy Center for the Performing Arts, and Dream Theater was playing in Raleigh for their 40th anniversary tour, highlighted by the return of Mike Portnoy behind the drums in Dream Theater's first tour across North America in 15 years with the man who co-founded Dream Theater back in 1985. And man, oh man, what a night. What a night. It was an incredible night of progressive metal in an epicness. Just incredible 3.5 hour show. It did not seem like the show was 3.5 hours because the way they paced the show, they orchestrated the show with the song selections. It was an incredible night. I mean, opening up with Metropolis Part 1, and then going into the first 2 tracks of Metropolis Part 2, Scenes of a Memory. And just throughout the night, they played The Mirror, they played The Dark Eternal Night, they played Under a Glass Moon, they played God, so many songs. They played, obviously they ended the night with Pull Me Under. They played Home, they played The Spirit Carries On. But my favorite part of the show was two things. They played in the second set. They opened up the second set with Night Terror from their latest record, Parasomnia. But the shocking moment for me of the set list, because I did not look at the second half of the set. I had a feeling that the first set was going to be the same set list of the first night in Philly, which I wasn't terribly surprised, but that's okay. I didn't care. I wanted to go into that second half of that set surprised. I kind of had a feeling what they were going to play during the first set, but that's okay. As long as it sounded great, and it sounded great. But during the second half, after they opened up with Night Terror, they went right into Midnight Messiah from the new album. And when they started that song, I lost my shit. It was incredible. I mean, just these new songs already sound great live. And what's really cool what they're doing is during this first tour, it's going to be just a retrospective tour of playing stuff from across their discography. And it's really cool to hear Portnoy play the stuff that Mike Mangini wrote with the band when Portnoy stepped away for 13 years before he came back to the band in 23. And I mean, what can I say? I mean, Mike Portnoy is one of the greatest drummers of all time. And just his songwriting, that these guys, him, Petrucci, Rudis and company, just an incredible, incredible eclectic band. And my favorite moment of the night, without a doubt, was Stream of Consciousness, or in this case, Vacant into the instrumental Stream of Consciousness, and then into the 24-minute epic known as Octavarium. It was unbelievable. And what's also cool, and shout out to the person that filmed this on YouTube, you can hear me in that video just going, woo! Dude, it was incredible. I mean, the entire band was on fire. Even James LaBrie sounded amazing singing. And LaBrie, I mean, has had nights where he's been bad, and then there's nights like he was on Saturday. He was amazing. He sounded great. He was in key. He was hitting the right notes. He wasn't trying to strain his voice to hit, these different, these high notes that, obviously he can't hit anymore. And just an incredible, incredible night. Incredible night of music. I had an absolute blast. Me, my father, my cousin Sean McDuffie went to the show, and it was just awesome. It was amazing to witness Mike Portnoy play with the band. I mean, the songwriting that these guys have, the chops that they have, it is just insane. It's insane. It is absolutely crazy. I mean, some of those transitions in Octavarium, I was like, whoa. And Stream of Consciousness kind of has like this, like, I would say that's kind of like their Orion Metallica instrumental kind of epic. Just an incredible, incredible show. Had an awesome time this weekend. They ended the night with the encore of Home, The Spirit Carries On, and Pull Me Under. I ended up getting a shirt, and the merch line was packed all night long. It was amazing. I mean, I'm at a loss for words even still after a couple of days ago of just witnessing that show, those two shows. Just an incredible weekend. First two shows of 25. Just live music for me is, I love it. It never gets old. I love going to shows. And Dream Theater is out on the road. They played last night in Nashville, at the Grand Ole Opry House in Nashville, Tennessee. Who would have thought that a progressive metal band would be playing at the spot for country music at the Grand Ole Opry? Just incredible. Now, unfortunately, tonight's show in Atlanta was postponed because LaBrie is sick right now, but they are rescheduling the show for the fall. So, hey, for those in Atlanta that couldn't get the show tonight, hopefully those that have tickets can make it to the next show when they do the show in the fall. And hopefully the rest of the tour goes on without a hitch, because believe me, LaBrie is he's also an important member of that band because he is their lead singer. And he's been with them since 92 on their second album, Images and Words. And even though they're known for their musicianship, but having LaBrie there, it's very important. And they only had to cut one song from the set list last night, and that was Home during the encore. And because that's a very intense song on the vocals. But they powered through, they got through the show. And it was, they, from what I heard, they still sounded good last night. And I'm glad that, they were able to get 3 shows in, and hopefully the rest of this tour goes on without a hitch. And if they're coming near you, check it out. They're going to be if you're in the West Coast, they're going to be in Vegas. They're going to be out there in California. If you're out in Texas, they're going to be in Houston, I believe, next week. They're going to keep on trucking. Their next scheduled show is tomorrow in Mississippi. So we'll see if that show still happens. If LaBrie is still feeling better? So that'll come out, I'm pretty sure, on social media if you're in the area and you pay attention to social media. But yeah, that was my weekend of live music over the weekend. So very excited to finally getting back out there going to concerts again for 2025. Now, as far as getting back into this Super Bowl, when it comes to this game, I just think that this game said a lot to me about this Chiefs team. They were frauds all year long. And Kevin said it on Facebook the other day when the Super Bowl was taking place, that the Chiefs were very average and very suspect all year long. And it was just a matter of when it was going to catch up with them. Because you can't keep winning these close games time and time again. You have to have dominant wins. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I was thinking that that if it was going to be a blowout, it was going to be the Philadelphia blowing out the Chiefs. Because there is no way it would have been the Chiefs blowing out Philadelphia. It's crazy. It's crazy to think that this blowout even happened. Unreal that this even happened. A blowout took place, and it was stunning. I think that this right here could be a change of history for the Chiefs. I think that, and Joey brought up this to me before, that dynasties do not last. And sometimes when we've had dynasties lose in these championship games or series, they come and they go. They come and go. And who knows? Now, can the Chiefs get back here? Sure, they can. But they got a lot of holes that they need to fix. They have a lot of problems on that team that needs to be addressed. You cannot keep winning, 17 consecutive games in a row, scoring these one possession victories. Like, come on. You can't. You can't keep winning like that. Because eventually it's going to catch up to you. Again, folks, we are live here today for another edition of our Nation Sports Show, live here on YouTube.com. I'm your host for this evening, Stephen Wyand, and joining me here tonight is JT Joey Dorrington. Unfortunately, Ezra could not be here tonight due to being out with his family, having dinner plans, and that is awesome. You can follow us on Twitter at @ON_Sports Show, Facebook.com/Nation Sports Show. You can also follow us here on YouTube, where we are live on most Tuesday nights. Sometimes we have to reschedule the show due to scheduling. We are live on youtube.com/Nation Sports Show, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 4 p.m. Pacific. Also, don't forget to follow the Nation's Corner on Twitter at Nation's Corner, Facebook.com/Nation's Corner, where they are live. YouTube.com/Nation's Corner, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 4 p.m. Pacific time. Be sure to join the guys and gals as they recap all things professional wrestling. And it's been a very interesting couple weeks in wrestling, and the Elimination Chamber is approaching in a couple weeks. That'll be down there in Toronto, highlighted by the Elimination Chamber match with the men's. So far, you got CM Punk, and you got Drew McIntyre's in. I believe Logan Paul is in. And next week is a qualifying match when you got Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor. And that Raw next week will be taking place in Charlotte, and our very own Kevin Rory will be at that Raw in Charlotte. That is going to be awesome. That is going to be awesome.
Sorry about that. I had to step away for a minute.
No, you're good. But I was just bringing up this when it comes to this Chiefs dynasty, and you brought it up to me. We have seen dynasties, no matter if it's the Yankees even the great Lakers, the Celtics, the Spurs. We've seen these teams, the Red Wings in the NHL. We've seen these great dynasty teams have a great miraculous run, have an awesome run at winning championships, going to championships games or series for the championship. But when they lose in the midst of being a dynasty, a lot of the times the dynasty crumbles. Now, I'm not discounting what the Chiefs have done because they have Patrick Mahomes leading the charge. And when you look at this team heading into next year, there's a lot of what ifs. What's going to happen with Travis Kelce? Is he going to retire? Will he still be a Chief?
I mean, it is a very interesting question because Travis Kelce, it was reported back in either September or October of 2023 saying that he pondered retirement a lot during that offseason. But just days before the Super Bowl, he was asked about retirement again, and Travis Kelce said, "Oh, my heart is still 100% with the game. I'm still 100% fully committed to this game." So I'm like, okay, so which one is it? Are you still in the game 100% fully, or are you contemplating retirement? Because you're 35 years old, and like I said about Luka and LeBron earlier, you're not getting any younger.
No. And that's the thing, too, because the Chiefs do have, and not to mention, I forgot to mention this, too, and to address William's comment also here in the chat real quick before we get back to the sports again. William, I do like the band Disturbed. They got a really good sound. They got some really good albums. They've also done some covers over the years, such as Land of Confusion, and I love their cover of Sound of Silence. It's an incredible cover. But getting back into the NFL again, when it comes to this Chiefs team, because yes, they still have Patrick Mahomes, but Chris Jones and that Super Bowl, that's also one thing I forgot to mention. He went out with an injury, and did not come back the rest of the game. That did not help out Kansas City's matter either. That damaged him. So when it comes
because there was one time, I can't remember exactly what play it was. Obviously, it was when the Chiefs were on offense. I think it was one of Patrick Mahomes' sacks. Chris Jones was sitting on the bench, and after he got sacked, Chris Jones literally got up from the bench and got on his knees on the sideline and just was like, "Oh my gosh, is this really happening right now?" I mean, he honestly looked distraught at the performance his team was putting on. Absolutely distraught.
It's interesting because when you look at this Chiefs team and the makeup of this team, they do have some good players like Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy, he is that kind of Tyreek Hill kind of player. He did have a good game, but not a great game. And this Chiefs team is going to look way different next season. Now, as far as this Chiefs team, Joey, if there's one thing, and I'll ask you this, what is one area with Kansas City that you think needs improvement? And I honestly think the running game needs to be improved. I think the running game needs to be improved.
Yeah, the running game needs to be improved because as hard as it is to believe, with the amount of talent that the Chiefs have as running backs on their roster, the leading rusher of the game for Kansas City was Patrick Mahomes. He had 22 yards rushing. 22 yards rushing, and he was the rushing leader for Kansas City.
When you are getting beat to an oblivion in that first half, it causes you not to run the ball. Because it's funny how I mentioned on the show, what if the Chiefs did get up on Philadelphia by that many points? What could the Eagles survive? And it's funny how I said that, and the exact opposite happened. Philadelphia beat the Chiefs like a bloody pulp. This team could be back, but think about the competition in the AFC. You got now Josh Allen won his first MVP. You still got Lamar Jackson. You still got Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty in Cincinnati. You have competition down there in the AFC. The AFC is a very competitive conference in the National Football League. The NFC is a very wide open conference. And you said it to me yesterday, Joey. Philadelphia went from being the hunter to the hunted because now they are world champions. And they will be defending champions come 2025-26 when the next regular season begins.
Yeah. I mean, there was just a lot that went wrong for Kansas City in that game. And other than Xavier Worthy getting 100 receiving yards and that one touchdown, I mean, there wasn't really a lot of offensive presence for Kansas City, and not even from Patrick Mahomes, because like we mentioned earlier, 2 of his 3 touchdown passes literally came in garbage time. And that was just a brutal annihilation that was put on by the Eagles.
It was the one time that I can actually think that the entire US of A was united with the Philadelphia Eagles. Because as we all know, Philly's fan base is very hostile. Very hostile. But there's one thing I can't deny with this Eagles team. This version of the Philadelphia Eagles is one of the greatest teams to win a Super Bowl. I mean,
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley was the electrifying offensive weapon that Philadelphia was missing in their last Super Bowl.
But going back to what you said about Phillies fans, and I know we pick a lot and make a lot of jokes about the Dallas Cowboys fan base every year saying, oh, this is going to be our year, we them boys, yada, yada, yada. But if there's a set of fans that I think are more ridiculous than Dallas, it's Philadelphia fans. And let me tell you why, real bluntly.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles win a big game, they destroy the city. They lose a big game, they destroy the city. So regardless,
I would say they destroy the city more when they lose.
I mean, regardless, they destroy the city whether they win or lose. I mean, Philadelphia Eagles fans.
Real quick. Good question by William here in the chat. Is Andy Reid returning as the Chiefs head coach?
Oh, he's coming back. You know good and well he's coming back. If he decides to call it a career, that's going to be a definite surprise to me. Definite surprise.
You know what's also fitting about this Chiefs victory? Who was on the coaching staff that was cut when Andy Reid was when he came over to Kansas City in 2013?
That's true. I honestly did
Who?
not think I did not think of this myself until they showed it. But Nick Sirianni was a coach on the Kansas City Chiefs coaching staff from 2009 through 2012. I didn't even know about that. I
The
did not even
irony.
know that personally.
The irony. The complete irony. The man who was cut by your organization beat your ass in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
This was a glorified squash match. Like, this was not even close.
No. But yeah, like I was saying earlier, the other night, Philadelphia fans, they took over one of them box trucks that was just driving down the road, minding its own business, and they emptied everything and destroyed it that truck was carrying. It was like mirrors, appliances, what have you. They destroyed it all, emptied everything that truck was carrying. And I'm just like, really? Why? You won't see any other fan bases do that. Not even Dallas. And that's really saying something.
Only destruction they're getting is through their owner, Jerry Jones.
Oh, you mean Mr. Cancer?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. Funny how that works out sometimes. um But it will be interesting to see what happens, because when you think about it, Philly has their players pretty much locked up for a couple years. Brown has an extension. Devontae Smith has an extension. I think Goddard could get an extension. Saquon Barkley's there for at least a couple of years. I mean, this Philly team is not going anywhere. Just felt good for these players, winning this championship. I can't hate them. I'm happy for them. The all around great team, just well deserved victory. And also, I sent Mike Quick, the former Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver back in the day. I sent him a message congratulating him and congratulating his Eagles winning the Super Bowl. I haven't talked to Mike in close to a decade, when he was last at Richmond during the basketball game, when several North Carolina Tar Heel players came down, some Duke players came down, and Mike Quick was there, and it was cool talking to him for a little bit. Just really cool guy. Really cool guy. But as far as real quick, go ahead.
Going back to what you said about the Philadelphia team not going anywhere. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure about that.
Oh, really?
I'm not too sure about that. Yes, the players may not go anywhere, but here's what I'm referring to.
Oh.
For the past several years, it has been a trend for the Philadelphia Eagles to have a good year, then a bad year.
True.
Then a good year, then a bad year. So, and now I have some facts to back it up. 2017, whenever they won the Super Bowl, they won the NFC East, went 13-3. 2018, they finished second in the NFC East with a 9-7 record, and they get blown out by the New Orleans Saints in the wild card round. 2019, They win the NFC East with a record of 9-7. But they lose in the divisional round, which is still better than losing in the wild card.
Mm-hmm.
So, good year. 2020, the Eagles didn't even make the postseason. They finished last.
God. Dude,
They finished last, went 4-11-1. Didn't even make the playoffs.
that Washington game was so bad with the Eagles. Ugh. Ugh.
2021, the Eagles again lose the NFC East battle, but they still find their way into the playoff, or they find their way back into the postseason with a record of 9-8. Only to lose in the divisional round once again. So still, that's a better year. 2022, when they went to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs the first time, they won the East, went 14-3, good season.
Mm-hmm.
And then last year,
The collapse of collapses.
the collapse of collapses. Yes, they still went to the postseason. Yes, they finished 11-6, but they got blown out in the wild card round by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
And they started out 10-1.
literally lost 5 of their last 6 games.
Yep. Started out 10-1.
So technically, I would see that as a bad year. So this year was a good year because they obviously won the Super Bowl. But again, it's that roller coaster effect.
Because
So
as we all
it makes me
know,
wonder that despite the players that Philadelphia has, it makes me wonder if next year is going to be a struggle year for them.
and not
Because
to mention, there's no guaranteed if they're going to get back next year. There's no
that's
guarantee.
right. That's right. Because now the Philadelphia Eagles have become the hunted when they were the hunters.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of teams are going to be gunning for them next season, including the teams in their own division. Because if there is one thing that the NFC East has not had compared to all the other conferences, it is back-to-back division winners. The NFC East has never had that. They have never had somebody go back-to-back.
It's going to be a very interesting upcoming offseason and draft, because
Indeed.
the next regular season, the next season technically begins March the 12th.
March 12th. And that's when free agents will be able to sign contracts. And trades will more than likely be made.
And that's only a couple of weeks away, so it'll be here before you know it. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing.
And also keep in mind that, yes, the NFL is over, but I believe there is another football league starting up at the end of March called the UFL, the United Football League.
You would be correct.
So we'll still have some football on TV.
Yes, we will.
So the NFL may be over, but the UFL is about to get underway.
Yup. The XFL and the USFL together. Now, as far as receivers go, before we close the show, who do you think Kansas City needs to go after to make their offense even better?
Excuse me. Believe it or not, there's actually a pretty hefty class this year as far as receivers in either free agency or have requested trades. And I'll give you a few names for
Oh,
example.
and I forgot about an obvious one, and I think you're fixing to bring it up. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'll give you a few names to be precise. There's T. Higgins. There's
Mm-hmm.
Chris Godwin. There's
Mm-hmm.
Cooper Kupp.
Forgot about Cooper Kupp and
And there
Debo
is also,
Samuel.
yeah, I was about to say, Debo Samuel, who as of yesterday has requested a trade from San Francisco.
I
So
totally
there,
forgot
so
that,
there
and I'm
are.
glad that
Oh,
we
and
brought this up.
and not to mention New York Jets wide receiver Garrett Wilson.
Oh,
He's there's been rumors floating around that he's a trade candidate.
interesting.
So yeah, this is a pretty heavy class as far as wide receivers that could be switching teams come next season.
Mm-hmm. And that right there could shape a lot of offenses too. Because that's the one thing that I really think that led to Mahomes' regression this past season is the reason why he didn't have a great year overall is because the receivers that he had. Like, although on paper some of the players were considered good receivers at one point, they just weren't consistent. They weren't catching like you would think they would.
Nope.
And that's what led to the Chiefs' downfall in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. And again, congratulations to Philadelphia for winning their second Super Bowl in the last 8 years, their second Super Bowl in franchise history. And we've had a lot of great fun recapping the NFL season. But until then, we're going to have to wait until the summertime and at the beginning of August when we begin our division previews when it comes to really covering the NFL season again. But as far as the offseason is concerned, there's going to be a lot of juicy storylines to come about in the offseason. And I think that right there pretty much does it for me. Any anything else you can think of to talk about before we wrap this up?
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think I'm good as well. Final thoughts?
Once again, great show tonight. Yes, it was only a two-headed monster, but I think we did a pretty good job with just two of us. Again, hate that Ezra couldn't be on the show tonight, but of course, quality time with family is always more important. And got a message from Hijacker earlier tonight saying that he was going to be unable to be on the show tonight. Probably something he had going on with work.
And I
So
hate and I hate and I hate
hate that he couldn't be on.
I hate Kevin hasn't been on too because I know he's been sick.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Kevin's been sick, battling the flu, I think it is.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll have the full five-headed monster back very, very soon.
In due time we will. But again, it was just the two of us, but we sure made it and we tried.
Oh yeah.
Great show with you. Phenomenal job tonight. Again, you can follow us on Twitter at Owen_Sports Show, Facebook.com/Nation Sports Show, where we are live on most Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 4 p.m. Pacific, at YouTube.com/Our Nation Sports Show. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff to your family and your friends that love the world of sports just as much as we do. And just because the NFL season is over, don't worry. The sports coverage continues as the NBA is hot and heavy. NHL's hot and heavy. Baseball will be starting up in the spring. And, of course, the greatest tournament in sports history. The March Madness tournament begins in March. It is going to be an incredible time. From all the way here to the NBA Finals, the UFL season beginning next month, and obviously the NFL offseason will be kicking into high gear come March the 12th when the next season campaign begins. And with that being said, I think that this is a wrap. So with that being said, and also thank you to William Gyron and Randy Gyron for joining in the chat tonight. And for those that join in on demand, thank you very much as well. And with that being said, For K-Rod, Kevin Rory, for JT, Joey Dunn, for Ezra Vickery, for William Gyron, for Andy Gyron, William Gyron, Hijacker Mike, and everybody out there in sports YouTube land, I've been your host for this evening, Stephen Wyand. And we will see you next week for a brand spanking new edition of our Nation Sports Show. Take care of each other. Be good to one another. Make memories with one another. And more importantly, be good to yourselves. Be good to your fellow neighbors, your brothers, your sisters, your family, your friends. All of that good stuff. It's never goodbye. It's just till we see you next time next week. Same time, same YouTube by God channel. Tune in next week for another great edition of our Nation Sports Show. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the wrestling. Enjoy the NBA. Enjoy some hockey. And whatever the hell you get yourself into. But whatever you do, don't do nothing stupid. With that being said, we out of here. Have a great rest of your week and upcoming weekend. Peace. Turn me up.